I always wonder how to describe what we do, because when you travel, you get in a taxi cab with all of this gear, and all these cases, and people say, "Oh, are you a musician?" You say, "Yes." They say, "What kind of music?" The short answer is noisy electronic music, often made with unusual sources, and then they will say, "Oh, like the Blue Man Group," or "Oh, like the musical Stomp," you know. And our face will get very sad. I think we are part of a tradition that I associate with novelty music and instrumental pop, you know, things like Popcorn, you know, Hot Butter's song Popcorn, or Perry and Kingsley from the 60s, where people are using electronics and musique concrète, but it's, you know, it's pop music. I think that we have certain habits that repeat again and again, which are obsessions or an idée fixe in what we do, or things that we will never be able to let go of, like 133 BPM. So many things are this tempo. I don't know why. Maybe it's because it's the lock groove of a record. So when a record is stuck, that's the tempo. We're making a joke on this recent tour about how often we play the bass line to On Broadway. You know, the Drifters. So many of our bass lines are like a version of On Broadway.
They say the neon lights are bright on Broadway.
If I had to caricature Matmos music, it would be 133 BPM with a loping bass line and a lot of silly noises on top. I don't think there's a particular sound that is the sound of being futuristic, you know? And I think a lot of the music we were associated with when we started in the world of so-called IDM or intelligent dance music, there was this idea that certain textures of digital errors or certain rhythmic patterns were things that just represented being futuristic. And if you had those, it was futuristic. You know, it's a little bit like, I don't know, the clothes of Courrèges or Pierre Cardin, the 60s, that are silver with lots of, you know, funky cubes and stuff like that. Okay, is that the future? Well, it was in 1963, but now here we are, 2013. To me, a Beyonce song like Countdown is much more futuristic in certain ways than somebody making like a ripoff of Autechre or a ripoff of Aphex Twin in 2013. You know, when I hear the tangy, weird harmonies in Beyonce's Countdown, I just think, whoa, you know, I can't believe this is popular. So I guess it's just an irony of history that the things you think mean the future generally don't age very well. I met Martin in the Bay Area when I was 20 years old. I had seen his band, which was an industrial band called Yowcore, play at a punk rock a warehouse space. And then he had seen me perform solo. But the first time we really met, I was go-go dancing on the bar in a gay bar called Club Uranus. And he was hitting on me and sort of trying to get to know me. And then someone told him that I made electronic music, and he thought, oh, whoa, okay. And we became friends, and then we became a couple and a band at basically the same time. So, you know, I guess I was 21 by the time we were a couple. Now I'm 41, so it's been 20 years of always being together with Martin as my partner, but also always together in a band with Martin. So I think in a way, I don't really know what it's like to not do both, you know? Most people, when they go on tour, they say goodbye to their wife or their husband, and then they're off on tour, whereas Martin and I mean, we've literally sometimes gone years where we're together always. I mean, maybe when you take a shit, but otherwise, we're always together. Our new record is called The Marriage of True Minds, and it's about telepathy. It's something that we came up with in a way as a reaction to our own reputation for making so-called concept albums. So I wanted to make a record in which a concept is causally responsible for everything, and somehow the private mental content of one person creates the record, but at the same time it stays purely mental and purely interior. Telepathic research is setting up a situation in which the content of one person's mind is transmitted to another and causes change in the world. So to do this, we reenacted experiments called Ganzfeld experiments, in which people enter a state of sensory deprivation. Their ears are covered with headphones playing white noise. Their eyes are covered with ping pong balls with a soft red light on them, because this is just traditional to the setup of the experiment. We adopted the setup, but instead of sending a graphic symbol, I just sat in a room and tried to send the concept of the new Matmos record, which I would think and attempt with my mind to send into their mind. I am a Shakespeare professor, and I happen to teach Shakespeare, and the phrase "the marriage of true minds" just leapt out at me as a very fitting way to talk about telepathy, but also to talk about partnership and to talk about the longing, I think, to be connected to another person. But also, I think a musical community relies on a kind of maybe tacit telepathy, you know, a sort of quotidian, everyday telepathy of sensing other people's intentions. Where are we going to go next? Maybe that's more like precognition than telepathy, you know. This is something we could dispute. You know, I think all our creativity begins with restraints and constraints and commitments to rules, like let's make a piece that's just out of this object, or let's make an album that's about this concept. But the funny thing is that on the other side of the commitment, there's all this freedom about how you interpret. It's a little bit like Hasidic Jews, you know, that live under the law, but then there's a whole art to interpreting, like, how does the law apply here? You know, is it working on the Sabbath if you do this but not that? So there's this funny kind of creativity inside the rule, you know? So I think, you know, for example, we take turns being in charge of Matmos albums. Some are Martin albums and some are Drew albums, but we each have veto power. You know, each of us at any moment can go, no, I don't like this, you know. So even if it's a Drew album or a Martin album, the other person can say, nah. So there's like a political system, you know, we call it our co-tyranny, because it's not a democracy, it's like two Caligulas, you know, that are both like, I'm the emperor, no, I am, you know. Sometimes it's pretty obnoxious, like a lot of fighting. But I think any other way wouldn't really work for long. I mean, after 20 years, you know, something's working. I'm probably gonna get hit by a bus, you know, when I walk outside.